What it do, baby? Welcome into episode 1 of the You Like That Feels Great, Baby podcast. I'm your host, Erik Stenholm, along with my esteemed co-host, Mr. Joey Moore. We've known each other for over a decade. We've been in basically one giant NFL text stream for that entire time that never stopped. I'm ready to roll, man. This has been a crazy week, a crazy season. You guys got CMAC, all this, insane stuff going on this week. How are you doing? How are you holding up after today's games?
Well, it doesn't feel great, baby, right now. But like I said before we started, if we did this about a couple hours ago, don't know if we would have got this off the ground. I was ready to just pack it in, fold up shop. But you know what? Nothing like more football on Sunday night to get this show back on the road. So yeah, got some takes ready to fire them off for our fans to hear.
Yeah, our fan, singular, not plural yet, but we're hoping to get there at some point. As you can tell, Mr. Moore is a huge 49ers fan and had a rough day today. I had a glorious bye week as a Minnesota Vikings fan, especially getting to watch Aaron Rodgers get the absolute shit kicked out of him.
Who doesn't like that?
Yeah, who doesn't like watching that? So let's get into week 7, man. And we have to start with the most important story of the week. Christian McCaffrey traded to your San Francisco 49ers. It ended up being, what was it, a 2, a 3, a 4, and then an additional 5?
Yeah, next year, 24. Back when we first when we pay off our debt to Miami for Trey Lance, we're also going to have more debt in 24. But yeah, man, like I was thinking about it, like in PE, middle school, or like even in high school, like those cool positions, like everyone likes quarterback, but everyone wants to be a receiver and a running back.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing like a sweet running back, no matter how painfully worthless they seem to be in the NFL sometimes now, like it was exciting. And then you read the thread, good old Shefty. It's like, okay, he's traded. And then he always puts out the trade in one tweet. And then the compensation's in the next one. And then it just doesn't stop. It's like a 2, 3. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I think that's what Von Miller was. I think the Rams, that's what they gave up last year for Von Miller. I'm like, okay. And it's
Impact
like a 4.
Player, yeah.
It's like a 4. I'm like, okay. And then he's like, and a 5. I'm like, whoa. And like, this isn't like basketball. Well, basketball's only got 2 rounds, but hockey, like 5th rounder, like the Niners have gotten Kittle in the 5th round. They got Hufanga in the 5th round. Like, those are not just like throw them away picks. And
those are at bats. Those are swings you get to take that. Yeah.
Like, we've seen the Rams go totally like, as the wonderful shirt said, fuck them picks. Like, you're seeing that now. Like, they can't block Stafford. They can't protect him. They can't. They're starting. Granted, no one cares. They won the Super Bowl, but like those 5th rounders, those 4th thirds. I mean, they've
got Ben Skoranek playing like 80% of their snaps. Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, whatever, do what it takes. I'm like, okay. Well, when we're starting practice squad guys all over the field, like this will be why. And yeah, for so many people saying it's such a perfect fit. Well, you'd think it would be, but it's also a perfect fit being the most injured player ever, playing on the most injured team ever. And it just doesn't, like, I'm shocked he played as well as he did today. I mean, he only had 62 scrimmage yards, but Stanford product, I mean, learned something pretty quickly. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, am I a little nervous? Hell yeah, I'm nervous with what they gave up. We still can't protect, because we got big old 69 Big Mike out there, right tackle. But yeah, I mean, it's
an absolute liability guarantee for a couple holdings a
traffic
game.
cone.
Yeah, I think the consensus around the league is, yes, this is a perfect fit. Yes, this is like adding a second Debo. The Niners are a contender, but more so than any other Niners fans I talk to, you are most concerned with. You look at the Rams and what they gave up for guys like Beckham and Von Miller, and now you look at their roster. Had they lost the Super Bowl last year or not even gotten there, we'd be talking about, is McVay going to leave? Is this tire fire just not redeemable? But because they won last year, they're getting a little bit of a they're getting off easy through the first few weeks.
They get a lot of leeway because they won. It's just like if Jaquaski Tart catches that pick, if Tampa, I mean, in the divisional round, if Tampa makes that comeback, they obliterated Arizona, but if the Bengals, it's totally different story. And like in 1 year, Aaron Donald almost retired. Sean McVay's one conversation away from going to the press, to call a game for like $100 million.
Yeah.
And Stafford looks like he might need. I mean, they're talking about Tommy John for a bit. He quickly goes downhill.
Right.
And it's like, okay, huge move for Trey Lance, huge move for Christian McCaffrey. It better work. All those pictures we saw all week, like, can this offense be stopped? Can this offense be stopped? And like, we're scoring like 17 points a game, guys. Like, let's turn touchdown field goals into touchdowns before we talk about maybe like being a pretty good offense. Field goals.
Yeah, you wonder what this offense would look like if it was still Mike McDaniel there. Now that it's just Kyle. Yeah, there's a lot that they got to solve, and they got to solve it quickly. Especially they got a game at the Rams next week, which we will get into later. Let's talk about a little of the events that happened today, starting with the GOAT, Mr. 45-year-old oldest starting quarterback in the history of the NFL, Tom Brady. Absolutely listless today in a 21-3 loss to the Panthers. I am as big of a Brady homer for a non-Patriots or Bucks fan as there is. I love that the guy just keeps going and going, and it's just like hell-bent on greatness at all costs. By all accounts, a good teammate, greatest player in the history of the NFL. But did he stay 1 year too long? Is this the year from hell? Should Tom have come back? I'm really starting to wonder that. If you lose to PJ Walker by 18 points, should you really be there? I'm a little worried, Joe.
Do you know who is worried? Tom Brady. I don't think he risked his entire family, his marriage, to lose by 18 to the Carolina Panthers. He has to be thinking it. I mean, like you said, I've grown to love and appreciate Tom Brady, as he's gotten older, a lot like Tiger Woods. And I think people, like you said, appreciate the fact that he seems, for every reason he has to be not like us, he's so like us that this is all he cares about.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be the time where he's like, I think there all comes a point when reality hits and like, this isn't it. And he sadly, I guess for him, might be on the verge of losing his wife, his kids. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and cry for Tom Brady. He'll be fine, but there's no way he's not on the sideline once he throws a tablet after he's ripped his offensive line, being like, I could be in the Bahamas right now with my wife and kids, or like, investing his money somewhere. I don't know.
Right.
Eating a kale ice cream sandwich. This can't be fun. And I know they were dealt with a ton of injuries on the offensive line.
Right.
Like even in training camp. But today, Mike Evans played. Nice catch. Drop.
Ooh, first offensive play of the game. That was a killer.
Like it's not. He still looks like, from what I've seen, he looks like he can. He still's got an arm. He still can throw. His mind still works. But his greatest quality might be the ability to lead a team. Like he looks defeated. He looks mentally defeated, and
the body language is different right now than it has ever been for Brady. I mean, he's pouted at times, but it's been like 5 weeks in a row where he just looks absolutely miserable. Yeah.
Like being mad and like he's starting. I think he feels a little, I think the apathy's kicking in. I think he's like, I think it'd look really bad if he just said, I'm going to retire, but
I mean, last year he's coming off of, he's 44. I think he was at that point the second oldest starting quarterback ever. He puts up 5,000 yards, finishes second in the MVP, almost goes back to the Super Bowl. He was really close to beating the Rams in that game and then hosting the NFC Championship. So it was all there for him. It really feels like there was this moment in the offseason where someone told him, hey, this is kind of the perfect time to go out. And he said, sure. And then for whatever reason, that itch got him. And now he's got to be thinking, what have I done?
we'll never know. But I really want to know what brought him back. He had that like I don't know that I don't know if he put it on his Twitter, or Instagram, or whatever.
Mm.
I think it was after like I don't know maybe something. Oh, it was after I think that 10-day or 2-week break in camp
Right.
where he was like he put out this video like why am I back? He's like this why waste this arm or whatever and.
Hmm.
I'm like,
Unfinished
what do you
business.
have to prove, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, it works, but I don't know.
No
Like,
one's ever going to touch any of his records. Mahomes would have to play to 45 and,
and
win 5 more Super Bowls. It's just not going to happen.
like you probably did. I try to convince myself, like he's coming back because he loves it, and that's why we love him. Like, I just love playing football.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I look at his numbers. He was 32 of 49. I mean, not great, but that's
It's fine.
better than. I mean, it's fine. He threw for 290. Imagine if Mike Evans catches the ball. I mean, that's looking at 360.
Yeah.
And a touchdown. He threw no picks. Like, he's not terrible. But, like, I mean, 3 points. I know Carolina's defense isn't terrible. It's
3 points in a game where they were favored by 13 on the road is really rough. Let's pivot to another team who was favored on the road, the Green Bay Packers, my arch nemesis. This is the lowest point for the Packers in at least 5 years since Rodgers broke his collarbone and missed a big chunk of, I believe that was the 2017 season. We're looking at it right now and we're like, have the Vikings essentially already clinched the division? I know I'm putting myself out there to like knock on wood. And, oh my God, what have I done? How could I say that? We're 5-1. Packers are 3-4. Lions and Bears are a complete afterthought. Rodgers is steaming on the sideline. He's feuding with his coaches. They just lost to Taylor Heineke. Like when you watch the Packers,
you see his second half numbers?
Rodgers?
No, Heineke.
Oh, Heineke.
Like,
I mean, he could be better than Wentz.
I texted you right when the game started. I'm like, okay, well, Carson Wentz has had a good day. And then the second half happened.
Yeah.
And he was 16 of 23 for like 230 or something. And
the long
I want you to take this one because being a
the long throw to
fan,
McLaurin was everything for me. So I watched that play. I see immediately after the touchdown, everybody's celebrating. They go to the sideline. 15 different Washington players come over to Heineke and just start pointing at him like, this is the man. Like, this is our guy. And I was like, oh, my God. Yeah, that stuff really does matter. And then you look at the other sideline, and Aaron Rodgers is just even more so than Brady. Like, he does not want to be there.
I will get into it, but we're going to talk. It's going to be a big body language podcast. And
we're body language guys.
Like you said, with college buddies. Remember that college class I took 3 times, psychology? Well, I got good at it, so I can read some body language. And Aaron Rodgers has got a big fat F-. And like I said, I'll get into it in one of the segments. But yeah, he looks beyond miserable, and it's. Tom Brady yelling at his offensive line feels less disrespectful than some of Aaron Rodgers' body language on the field, on the sideline. And it's why is it always somebody else's fault, Aaron?
Right.
You're making $50 million a year.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Maybe perhaps taking a little bit less than the absolute max so that your team could be decent around you is the more prudent move when you've already made, $300-400 million. Tom Brady would say so. I think a lot of the other veteran quarterbacks in the league would say so. Let's pivot to something a little more positive here because we've been dumping on everybody. The Giants are 6-1. I don't know if you caught much of that game against the Jags, but that's a team that's just really well coached, and I'm like super shocked. And then the Jets are 5-2. They beat Denver. It was Brett Rippon, not Russell Wilson. Yet another snooze fest involving the genius Nathaniel Hackett and his offensive game planning. But, I mean, the Giants and Jets out of nowhere look like they're both legitimate playoff contenders, especially the Giants. I would say right now, Daboll probably the front runner for Coach of the Year. But you and your boy, one of your favorite people in the entire NFL, Robert Saleh, you got to be loving this.
Shout out, Bobby Saleh. Missed you today. Um,
44 bomb dropped on the Niners. I don't think Bobby would have allowed that.
no, that's harsh. D'Amico's been unreal. Anyways, sidebar that conversation. Um, I I thought the Jets. I think they're a year early. I thought they had an unreal draft. Getting Sauce, the greatest name in the NFL.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sauce, Garrett Wilson in the top 10. Brees Halls is a stud. Hopefully he's not out for long, but it sounds like he might have hurt his knee done for the year. But and I know they played not the greatest quarterback situation in Denver, but a win is a win on the road. It's impressive. It's very impressive. The Giants, I'm a little more shocked about just because I did not think Saquon was going to get anywhere near back to where he is right now.
Right.
Brian Daboll, yeah. I mean, it pays to hire a good coach, pays to hire a good offensive coach. I mean, it reminds me like, bring it back local. Yeah, Harbaugh came in. It's like, yeah, I love Alex Smith. Great guy. Turned him into a serviceable guy.
Yeah.
Brian Daboll could have been like, I mean, they were in the Russell Wilson sweepstakes.
Yeah.
What a disaster that would have been.
Yeah.
They could have had Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, they have a few New England guys on that in that staff. They could have had
them and like
drafted guy. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, no, Daniel Jones has some skill. We're going to work with him. And Daniel Jones looks fine. Is he a superstar? No. But he runs the offense. They're putting up points. Defensive line is great. Thibodeau, he's playing well. And yeah, New York is back.
I think what we've seen from both of those coaches is they took these rosters and instead of being one of those coaches who they're like, you have to fit into my system. We play my way. They looked at the roster they had and they said, this is the way we have to play to win, especially Daboll. He goes, I have Daniel freaking Jones. We are going to run the living hell out of the ball. And it has worked to this point. And their defense has been really good with Martindale from Baltimore now coaching that defense. They're just blitzing on every down. And it's like pretty fun to watch. Trevor Lawrence was miserable back there today.
Yeah, I know I think Evan Neal went down and out. Hopefully he's fine for the Giants. But yeah, I think the Giants have the best cornerback tandem in the league, possibly with Bradbury. He's playing well. Yeah, I looked at their schedule. I told they're staring at 9-1 if they,
which is insane. I mean, I believe their over/under win total was 5.5. They've already passed it through 7 weeks. They're looking at least 10, maybe 11 wins in that division. It's pretty incredible. Sticking in that division, Philly off this week. Dallas won. You got a 6-0 team, a 6-1 team, and another 6-1 team. So I don't think anybody is still so convinced of the Giants that they're like going to put them in the contenders. Kind of same with the Vikings. Given the state of the 49ers, the Rams, the Packers, the Bucks, is it just a 2-horse race between Philly and Dallas at this point? Like, is that an overreaction, or are we looking at the NFC? The guard has changed. The Brady-Rodgers era is probably over. Are we at that point yet, or do we want to give it a few more games where we're like, hey, we think they can right the ship?
Oh, I think they're barbecue. I think they're toast. I don't have the scar tissue you might have in the NFC North with the Vikings, but that is over. Like you have a home playoff game in that building behind you. It is over. Tampa, I don't know. Carolina's doing the worst tank job I've seen. 1 game out of first place.
Yeah.
They just, like I said, it looks awful. It looks awful with those teams. The Rams, I kind of think, shockingly, they might. I still think they find a way to get OBJ back. That will help. Won't help block. They just can't. They can't protect Stafford, and especially against the Niners, which we'll have that next week. We're gonna be hopefully Armstead. Hopefully, will be back for that game. Kinlaw won't be, but. I have serious concerns about their path. They had the worst left tackle in the league in Joe Noteboom, and he's out for the season. So, if you have the worst and you replace him, what are you getting? So
not much better.
But I still think the Rams. It's crazy. It just feels like a more positive vibe with them than in
Cheeseland,
and
Right.
Tampa Bay feels like we just had a funeral today for those teams. But
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier this week with Brady and Rodgers being down, Wilson being way, way down. Basically, every team outside of Buffalo, Kansas City, and maybe Philadelphia seeming like they're at least either overachieving, mediocre, or bad. We were like, is the quality of the NFL product at like a low point right now? I was saying, I think it is. I think scoring is way down. I think the quarterback play is way down. The offenses are way down because defenses have kind of picked up on some of the advances that the Shanahans and McVays and those types of guys have made in the past few years. You have a theory as to why the quality is down, and I thought it was pretty interesting.
everyone's hurt. I mentioned to you that the first time, and you made it, perfect sense. Just the way these guys are wired, the diets, everything is on a very, very thin line of nutrition, health, juices, like whether it's kale or other stuff. But yeah, everyone, and they're not like, I mean, yeah, there's concussions. They're not like the snapped leg. Like there hasn't been, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Dak Prescott, there's been, snapping Trey Lance was bad, but like that. But they're the no contact today. JC Jackson running and then just flops in the air. You're like, what is he doing? And then it's like, no weight on his leg, like Cart, DK Metcalf today. That guy looks like he came out of like he was Hercules. He looks like Hercules.
Yeah.
And nope, like he's hurt. And it feels like, football's always been violent. Guys always going down, but it just feels like poor Chargers, I out everybody. I've experienced it with, the Niners. I'm sure the Vikings got guys down. Everybody does. And
it's insane. My thought too was that you got guys like now that are like George Kittle that are like, they're 6'5", they're 260, but they run a 4.5. They're like super quick, super agile. It's like you don't see athletes like that in any other sport outside of like a few insane guys like Giannis in the NBA or whatever, who are that big, that strong, that fast, that quick. It's like guys, soft tissue, ligaments, all this stuff are just not holding up the way they used to because the game demands so much from them. I thought it's been crazy this year. Literally every game you watch, you're like, oh, there's a Pro Bowl corner done for the year. There's a wide receiver who was like the difference maker for his team. Oh, he's out for 6 weeks. We're seeing a lot of that this year, and I think it's really crushing the quality of the game. I don't know what more can be done because obviously we want to see the absolute best athletes, but man, it's getting crazy. Every game you're looking at, you're like, why is the total on this game 38.5? It's an NFL game with 2 decent quarterbacks. And then you look, oh, the entire offensive line is out this week because they all pulled a quad and tore a hammy. It's getting pretty crazy. And I think you're totally right. It's pretty much exclusively due to injuries.
I think coaching has I think a little down. I don't know why, but I feel like I don't have any super fancy stats to back that up, but I just feel like the quality of coaching is down. I don't.
Yeah.
We got Belichick. I know, like recently, Tomlin. If he didn't have someone else besides Kenny Pickett, maybe be doing okay. But it's like
a lot of Nat Hackett's in the league right now.
Yeah, a lot of guys having to hire other guys to do their job. Like Hackett, I need someone to help me manage the clock. It seems like you should know how to do that.
If you're the head coach, it seems like something you should be able to do. That's a good segue into your favorite segment that we're going to do here every week on the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. Joey's Jack in the Bum of the Week. Now, the background on this is Mr. Morse. He subsists solely on Jack in the Box. This man has probably, knocked their stock up more than any other human with his frequent $20 meal for ones at Jack in the Box. Joey, who is your Jack in the Bum of the week?
Jack in the Box, if you're listening, call me. Business opportunity. But yes, I'm on their frequent fryer program. This is going to sound, I text you this is going to sound a little blasphemous, but as I mentioned, it felt like a funeral today. And I'll Jack and the Bums, we'll make it plural.
Plural.
It's got to be Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Let me start
Incredible.
with Tommy, because I feel like that's a less egregious bum. You're 40. What is he? 45 years old. 45 years old.
Graduated high school in 1995. For those of you scoring at home,
That's a long time ago. He body language is terrible. The whole, like I said, we loved him because it's all he cared about was football. Last week, not to be a micromanager, misses the practice to attend. Good old Bobby Kraft getting married, I guess. Sounds fun. You know who didn't attend that? Bill Belichick. Won a game.
you know who else didn't attend that? The lady from the Rub and Tug down in South Florida a few years ago. Guess she was not in attendance. I did read invited? That.
Oh,
yeah, she didn't make it.
Must have got lost in the mail. Sorry. He's body language is terrible. As much as we like the fire, ripping the offensive line, it looks bad. It looks bad. 3 points against Carolina Panthers is bad. Bad. I would not be shocked to wake up tomorrow morning and see he has retired. It looks bad. He's bad. Like it's just we'll call it minor bum. Let me get to the major bum.
Minor bum. Okay, got it.
As I mentioned, why is everything not your fault? $50 million. And we subscribe to the whole your production better outweigh your distraction.
Right.
And the distraction is definitely overweighing, or the production is way less than the distraction.
Way less. Right.
All off season, Devontae, he's doing the whole like petty thing. Well, Hall of Fame, receiver to Hall of Fame receiver. Yeah, Alan Lazard. Yeah, how's that working out? It's not working out. And I want to go back to the playoff game last year against the play that I just, as much as I've watched, highlights of that game, fun time. But it was like 3rd and 12. And he just decides to 1-2-3 Cancun it to Devontae Adams in double coverage in the snow. And Alan Lazard is like, I think I watched the TV on a 65-inch TV. There was nobody in red and white at the time of that playoff game on the TV. And he just doesn't look at it. He doesn't throw it. Like, you're a smart guy. He's open. You just choose not to throw it to him. Mm-hmm. Like, there's guys now, like the rookie receivers, as much as I can bag on Tom Brady, those receivers, like, he would take him out. We're going to get better. We're going to get better. We're going to pump it up. I remember when they won the Super Bowl, he named in his ring ceremony speech, he named every single player on that roster in that every single one of them by name. Aaron Rodgers, does he know everyone on the team? Like, names?
Romeo Dobbs, he's probably like, Brian? What's
it's exhausting. I'm not even a Packer fan. It's exhausting. It's so low level. It's so, like, if I'm Matt LaFleur, I don't know. He might retire too. Rodgers, not LaFleur, but I don't know. Jeopardy, he's got such an NBA feel to him, and it doesn't work in the NFL. It does not work, and it's caught up to him. I mean, I love Devontae Adams. I think he's obviously future Hall of Fame receiver, but holy hell, like, that shouldn't be this bad. And yeah.
Under LaFleur, they had 3 and 4 losses in each of the last 3 seasons. This year, they already got 4, and they are going to Buffalo next week. So good luck with that. Yeah.
Let's put that in pen.
Sharpie. If Rodgers wins that one, I will officially be worried. If he loses it as we're expecting, pretty much time to put the nail in the coffin, which makes me so happy as a Vikings fan.
And there will be something this week, like Aaron Rodgers centered. I don't know. It's going to be something because he has to know they're going to go to Buffalo and just get shoved around.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, he said in his post game presser today, he's like, "This is actually a good spot for us. Nobody expects us to win next week. Let's see what we're made of. Well, let's see, Aaron. Let's see what we're made of next
didn't he
week."
just like 2 weeks ago, like in the post game presser, like get on Jair Alexander for saying something about potentially losing the next week? What was that, Aaron?
Yeah, yeah. Way to be a leader. Way to be a leader, calling out maybe your best player on your defense. And it's really fallen apart there. And I think LaFleur's done a good job the last 3 years of keeping it together, while Rodgers has kind of morphed into a bit of a diva. But
LaFleur gets like, he has his detractors saying like, "Oh, anyone can win with Aaron Rodgers." I don't think that's the case. I absolutely do not think that's the case. He's got to be just a complete nut job, like throughout the week and in the offseason. Like it's just, he can't be. And I've defended him because, like, obviously, look at the way he's thrown the football in his career. But like, eventually, the way you treat people in the building catches up. And I think if you had a heart to heart with LaFleur, he'd be like, I wouldn't mind seeing Jordan Love.
Yeah, I mean, he drafted him. He's probably like, I'm getting a little tired of having to deal with this guy. Let's put week 7 in the rear view and let's look ahead towards week 8. So every week on the pod, we're going to look at the next week's games. We're going to guess what we think the betting lines are. And then I'll reveal the actual line that were just posted just after the third quarter ended in the Sunday night game. So I got those down. I've got my guesses. I'll throw it over to Joey for his guess. We'll reveal the actual guess. And if we're like way off, maybe that's a betting opportunity. I listen to quite a few podcasts where they do this same exercise. And at the end, they'll be like, okay, there were 3 or 4 where, God, maybe I thought Arizona was going to be a 7-point favorite. They're only a 3.5. That's a good price to buy it at. So let's see what we can get out of this, starting with Thursday Night Football, which, thank the Lord, is a quality football game for the first time in a month. Bezos has to be furious. Oh, now that's a spicy take. Is it? Baltimore at Tampa Bay, an MVP against another MVP. And Mr. Moore, you say, is it a good game?
Did you see Tampa today?
The GOAT against Lamar on Thursday night when you've had to watch Wentz and Fields and God knows who the last few weeks.
Those are so bad on the Richter scale, those don't even reach it. So this is like a regular, bad is a strong word, but it doesn't look as appetizing as it did when the schedule came out. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I will tell you that. That's for sure. So I looked at this game. It's in Tampa. I said Baltimore -1. What did you go with?
-3.5, Baltimore.
It's actually -1. I hit it on the nose. I'm thinking that's something we look at there. Baltimore -1. Probably not really a reason to buy Tampa at this point. We'll look at that later in my You Like That 5 picks of the week. Definite possibility there. Next game on the schedule in London. God help the people of London who are subjected to this game. Denver versus Jacksonville. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence against probably Russell Wilson. I think the odds makers are expecting Russell Wilson to start. Even so, I still think Jacksonville's -3. It's a kind of a de facto home game for them. I guess they've built a little bit of a fan base there. What are you going with?
Yeah, it's the London Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
They go there feels like every year whenever they go to Europe pre pandemic. But yeah, I got Jacksonville -4.5. I don't care who's at quarterback for Denver.
You got it right on the nose. It is 4.5. I was surprised to see it that high, but that just goes to show you, like, Vegas sees what we all see. The Broncos are irredeemable. I mean, if you're playing like that on offense for 7 weeks in a row, it's not going to get better.
And everyone's seen them.
Getting better. Yeah,
everyone's seen them. All the bad, they're Denver. All of them. And you're way more of the more gambling picks and all that, sharp more than I am. But I factored in, at least in my predictions, that like what the fans go, and if the fans are putting these bets that impact Vegas's odds, like I think fans are like, whether you're a Denver fan or Denver hater, like you're going there like I hate watching them. I hate watching you. Like Jacksonville. Like I think that's why I think it got up to -4.5. I Do I think I mean, if everyone is healthy, I think Denver's probably better, despite how poor Russ has been.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, imagine going from Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson. I think the vibes are a lot better. And although Trevor Lawrence has been, no one wants to say it, but
yeah, there's been a lot of chatter about is he a bust? I believe he's 5-19 now as a starter. We probably need to start having that conversation if we get to the end of the season and he's 6-11 and no highlight plays. I
they're a
was
good
watching that
team.
game today. Yeah, I don't see any highlight plays there from him. I see a pretty decent core and a pretty decent head coach and a guy who's just kind of not making the big plays.
So somebody sent me a video of his like pregame. I don't know if it was against Washington, pregame like speech to the team, which is usually done. Tom Brady gets the boys fired up. I mean, usually like the Niners, usually Fred Warner. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who it is for the Vikings, but the team's like, let's get the boys fired up.
Anybody but Kirk. Yeah, that's our yeah.
You like that? Trevor Lawrence's pregame huddle speech made me. I think I wanted to run through an open door. It
not run through a brick wall.
No, the door was open and there was a guy like the airplane waving you in. And great hair, Trevor, but
I've heard a lot of that
I have
too.
you red flagged with that.
It wasn't all Urban Meyer. I mean, most of it obviously was Urban Meyer, but we've heard some things. The guy is not used to losing. He went basically undefeated all of high school and all of college. He comes to the NFL, he experiences some growing pains, and he's not handling it all that well. Let's move to the 10 a.m. window on Sunday. First game, Carolina at Atlanta. Probably not a game a lot of folks are going to have circled. I got Atlanta -6.
Oh, I came away super impressed with Atlanta, once they beat the brakes off of us. But yeah, I got -6.5 Atlanta.
2 in a row for you. It is 6.5. That's probably a no-go for me. That feels like about the right number. I think Carolina had their Super Bowl today. I would not be shocked if Atlanta ran away with it, and I would not be shocked if Carolina won by 3. Feels pretty fair there.
If I was a betting man, I might take the fighting PJ Walkers.
+6.5. I bet you that'll go up too. I feel like that'll go up because the consensus on Carolina is that they stink. They were 13-point home underdogs today.
I mean, their defense is good. Steve Wilkes think he got the boys going. I'm not a player. I know it's hard to jack in the box. Doesn't make me an NFL player, but I think the boys might be a little more fired up to play for PJ Walker than they are for Baker Mayfield.
And there's some rumors of Baker Mayfield and possibly Sam Darnold being ready to come back in. Whoever they're throwing out there, this isn't their year.
Brian Burns, great play. J.C. Horn, they have players on defense.
Yeah, they just need a QB. Yeah, I'm thinking they probably need to be unproud for Stroud or whatever the new phrase is for who you're tanking for this year. They're probably the chief tankers right now, them in Houston. Let's take a look at Chicago at Dallas. Really impressed with Dallas today, who clearly in the first half had nothing. They came out completely flat, responded in the second half, completely shutting down a Lions offense that had been really good to this point. I'm starting to think Dallas might actually be pretty good at 6-1. I put them at -10 for this game against the fighting Justin Fieldses.
I have it a bit lower at -7.5 for Dallas, only because this was one of the games I did watch start to finish. Because as we'll get into, I'm not a subscriber to Red Zone, but this was on, so watch it start to finish. Dak Prescott struggled big time. And
a lot of rust there. Vegas is expecting him to come back to form, though. They do have it at -10, the full 10.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be more interested in what the over/under is because I might put it at 17.5.
It's definitely going to be a low total. I got to look that up. That's one to look at. Any game with Justin Fields, yeah, is going to be an under. That is a lot of points. We'll move on to Miami at Detroit. Miami coming off a 16-10 win on Sunday Night Football that we just watched. They looked fine. I think Tua probably had 3 or 4 picks that were dropped, so his stat line looks a lot better than the visual performance actually did. But they're going to Detroit. Dan Campbell revenge game, maybe. I don't know. I have Miami minus 2.5.
My boy Mike McDaniel, I got him minus 5.5.
5.5. It is 3.5 actually. So you are a little bit higher on Miami than the consensus there. I thought they probably could have won by 2 touchdowns today. They also probably could have lost with a couple of those Tua passes getting dropped by Pittsburgh defenders. Not a huge Detroit guy. I kind of did buy in when I watched Hard Knocks. I was like, man, Campbell's a guy. He's got these guys playing fired up. And then they came out in the first 6 weeks. It was the same thing that we always see from the Lions. They choke it away in the fourth quarter, or they're down 24 and they just rally their asses off to only lose by 3. It's like, I see the same exact team. I think Miami might be a look there for us this week at that cheap price of 3.5 when you expected 5.5. Let's go to New Orleans. Raiders at New Orleans. I had it at -3. Raiders were great today. They in the fourth quarter just completely dominated Houston. They needed that win. They needed that 18-point win today. Raiders at New Orleans. What do you got?
Yeah, Josh Jacobs is rolling. I got Vegas -3.5.
So this one was a surprise to me. This is Raiders -2. And in some places, it's -1.5, which I was surprised. So that's one that I'm going to definitely look at. I think the Raiders are 2-4. It's just not an actual 2-4. They probably could have won at least 2 of those games that they lost. I think they're probably the either third or second best team in their division. They just had a few tough breaks. And as you said on Thursday, New Orleans is a tire fire right now.
I had that wrong. Before the season, I thought the Saints would be sneaky pretty good. But again, shocker, Michael Thomas is not playing. He's hurt. Kamara's missed some games. Jameis has missed some games. I'm not a huge Jameis guy, but probably better than what I saw Thursday night from the Red Rifle.
More like the red water pistol at this point. It's not really coming out like it used to.
Yeah, but Dome's always tough.
Yeah, probably you never know.
Probably shouldn't be this year, I mean, Vegas should be better than their record.
If Waller comes back for that game, I really like the Raiders. They have to win that game.
I don't know. Maybe Dennis Allen is still bitter. I don't know.
There's another one. There's a Dennis Allen revenge game. I just don't think New Orleans has it. I think their season's over. I think the Raiders still, despite being 2-4, they have a shot. I think they'll come out fired up for that one. New England at the Jets. This game, after maybe 2 weeks, if I saw this on the schedule, I would have been like, ugh. Now it's like going to be a really good game. This is what I'm looking forward to. Yeah, this is a big game. These are 2 teams that are battling for second behind Buffalo. But I think both of these teams can make the playoffs, and I definitely didn't think that before the season started. New England -2 was what I went with.
I have Jets -2.5.
And Jets -2.5.
Like I said, I think people are, I think they're drinking the Jets Kool-Aid. I really do. I think the people want to see Bill and the big bad, Death Star up there lose. Well,
not a terrible guess. It's actually New England -1, but you would think this is going to move depending on what happens tomorrow night, the Monday night game.
Move once the Breece Hall news comes out. I think I forgot that when I made that pick, but yeah.
I mean, Jets at home. This is actually going to be a sneaky good game, but you were off on the line by 3.5 points, so this could be a bye for you on the Jets. We'll take a look at that later. Next one, the final game of the 10 a.m. window, Pittsburgh at Philly. I actually thought Kenny Pickett was pretty good in that game we just watched. Like, yes, there were a couple pretty egregious picks, but a lot of poise for a guy who was just pressured all night. I didn't really expect much from him this season or at all in his career. I didn't really think he should have been picked in the first round, but I was impressed with him today. Despite that, I think Philly's actually probably the third best team in the NFL. I know Vegas odds makers are way lower on them than the general consensus with them being undefeated. I did Philly -13.
That's high. I have Philly 8.5.
It's Philly -10.
my like first thing is like, oh yeah, Philly by 30. But then yeah, you watch Pittsburgh and they're for the most part, other than the Buffalo game, they're in it. You know, Tomlin, good coach, but in Philly, the fourth quarter was bad. Last
It
couple
was
drives
bad.
was bad for Kenny Pickett. And I just think in Philly, you know, Pittsburgh, I know
This
Steelers
could
fans
be a boat
travel well.
race.
It might be another Buffalo. Philly coming off a bye.
That's another thing. Philly off a bye. Pittsburgh just played on Sunday night. TJ Watt probably not going to be back for that game. I like Philly big. Next, we're moving to the 1 p.m. window. A craptastic game, Tennessee at Houston. Don't need to go much into this one. Tennessee won today at Indy, and they're kind of in the driver's seat in that division, which is just horrendous. I got Tennessee minus 4.5.
Yeah, I have Tennessee minus 5.5, and we can move on.
Yeah, it's minus 4. I don't think anyone is going to be betting that game. Any bookmaker that sees someone come in that wants to bet on that game will be like, absolutely, windows open. No idea what's going on there. Here's an interesting one. Washington coming off a big win. They're all of a sudden 3-4. And in the NFC, that gets you like tied for fourth because only 3 teams have a winning record. Washington out of nowhere. And they're going at Indy, who was awful again today, who just physically cannot score points. I had it at Indy minus 3 still, given that it's Heineke, that it's on the road. Indy minus 3.
Yeah, I have Indy minus 1. They're bad. Washington's bad.
This is surprising to me. It's minus 5 for Indy, and some places it's minus 5.5, which is insane. Can they score 5 points?
That yeah,
That made no sense to me. It must be just preseason expectations. Maybe they're thinking.
If you would have told me the line, what was it? You said 5?
5.
5 or 5.5. If you told me the line was minus 5 and I had to pick a team, I probably would have said Washington.
I mean, they're probably assuming Taylor is good to go next week. Shaq Leonard comes back. But even then, I mean, that offense is not scoring right now. The offensive line I think it's the highest paid offensive line in football. Quentin Nelson's making $20 million a year. And all the advanced stats say that offensive line is just a tire fire right now. And that was like the identity of their team. I don't like Indy going forward. I can't believe that line's at 5. Next one we're going to the 6-1 Giants at the 4-3 Seahawks. Nobody on earth saw that coming. This is actually a really good game. It's probably the best game of the Sunday, like early window, 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. for us out here on the West Coast. I said Seattle minus 2.5 at home.
I had Giants minus 2.5.
So the line is Seattle minus 2.5, which when I saw your guess, I immediately thought, you know what? It would make sense for the Giants to be favored here with the way they've been playing. But they're really buying into the Geno hype. Seahawks minus 2.5.
Yeah, a couple things. I just think people who aren't super dialed into the NFC West still think, even look at their record in Seattle, be like, they're garbage. And that's why I just think I thought all the bets might be coming on the Giants. Dayball, New York team, like rolling 6-1. Seattle's good. Pete and Geno are
that guy. Okay,
respect,
so we don't have a segment for this. But Kenneth Walker, that is the best running back I have seen come into the league in maybe 2 or 3 years. Maybe since, I don't even know maybe since Henry. I mean, this guy is a machine. I watched him the last 2 weeks since Rashad Penny went down, and I'm like, I see, and this is the biggest possible compliment a Vikings fan can give, I see a little bit of young Adrian Peterson there. I mean, this dude is an absolute stud, and Pete Carroll, all he wants to do is give the running back the ball, and I mean, Geno's playing great. I'm as shocked as anybody.
Geno throws a pretty ball. Like it's weird because, yeah, I mean, before Kenneth Walker, Rashad Penny, I believe, he's still running in Detroit. Like, you know, the the Niners played them week 2, and the final score is 27-7, and it could have been 30-0 because the only touchdown they got was a blocked field goal attempt. It was like a 27-yarder. So like could have been 30-0. They had a couple bad turnovers that made it worse, and like the Niners are 3-4, but like who is Seattle scoring all over the yard? Pete, as much as I hate the colors, hate everything about Seattle. I hate them a little bit less. They don't have Russell anymore. But there's something so organic, so pure about them saying, no, we're going to go back to what we do, Seattle Seahawks football, and it's working. And again, I don't care how many accolades Russ had. You can't tell me that offense and that team isn't thrilled to run out through a wall for Geno Smith right now.
They say that it's impeccable vibes in that building right now. Everybody wanting to prove Russell wrong, and it's been kind of a dream situation
They said absolutely screw the tank job. Like, who's to say they don't win it?
They're leading the West through 7 weeks. It's insanity. It's one of the best stories of the year. Let's go to Sunday Night Football, Packers at Bills. I had Bills minus 13. I think they could win by like 30 points. This could be like the nail in the coffin for the Packers. But you went lower than that. What's your guess?
Again, my theory is there's just a lot of Packer fans all over the world. Maybe they just, I don't know, ate too much cheese this week, put money on the team, brings the line down. My head tells me Buffalo minus 30. But yeah, I got Buffalo minus 7.5. I have no reason to believe that game won't be at least 2 scores in Buffalo.
So it's minus 10. It's minus 10.5. That is definitely going up. 10.5 seems a little bit cheap there, but that's the game for the Packers. I mean, that might be the season right there. So I kind of actually am inclined to look at the Packers there, but man, that is pretty nuts with the way the Packers are playing right now, that they are coming off probably their worst 3-game stretch of the Rodgers era. And then boom, you got to go at Buffalo in primetime. Cincinnati at Cleveland on Monday Night Football, a real freaking barn burner. Any game that involves Cleveland. I got Cincinnati minus 2.5. I was absolutely stunned by the first half performance by Joe Burrow today. That was probably the best I've seen any quarterback play this year. I believe he had 344 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. Incredible by Burrow today, and I think he's on a roll. Cincinnati minus 2.5 on the road.
Yeah, I got Joey B minus 3.5.
And it's 3. It sounds about right, and I think that'll probably go up. Cleveland's whole plan was, can we get to the Deshaun Watson week at like whatever it is, 5-6 or 6-6? They ain't getting there. They're 2-5.
Narrator, they did not.
They did not. They're in big trouble. So when we do guessing lines, we're always going to go with our 2 teams last. Let's start with the Vikings. They're hosting Arizona next week. I am pumped for this game because I get to finally, root against Kyler Murray the way that you do every week. He's one of your least favorite players.
One of my favorite things to do every week.
Oh, I love when I get the text from you about look at Kyler's stat line.
I'm not a big, as much video game anymore, but I'm pretty sure Call of Duty's out now.
Which means the line should move in the Vikings' favor with a new Call of Duty out. Kyler's going to be really sidetracked there. I got Vikings minus 4.
I got Vikings minus 4.5.
It's 5, and I think it's 5 because of the bye. I think they're expecting the Vikings to come out and hit him in the mouth early and do the same. Yes. Look at Joey doing the skull chant.
Anything to make Cliff and Kyler and Steve Keim and JJ Watt just have a great old Sunday next week.
The pettiness level unparalleled. These 2 guys hosting this podcast, all petty. Anything that goes wrong with Aaron Rodgers or Kyler Murray, or exactly, Stafford, whoever, we're always petty. Let's move to the Niners game. Niners at Rams. I had Rams by 3.
I got Rams -1.
Look out, folks. San Francisco -1.5 on the road. I was stunned when I saw that. I
on
am
the road,
all over the Rams.
on the road in quotes.
Yeah, in quotes.
Practice
That's another thing.
Practice your silent count this week.
Every time I look at a Rams game or a Chargers game, I always say, "Oh, they're at home, so probably -3." And then I remember they're never at home. It's gonna be a sea of red. Let's now that we're done with our guessing lines, let's just do a quick state of the teams. We just went over the Niners line for next week. Obviously, they're gonna have probably a significant home field advantage next week. How are you feeling going into week 8? You're 3-4. You came off a tough game against Kansas City going into Los Angeles.
It sure seems when we get spanked that the next week we have the Rams, just the way that works, just last few years. And it's no different. And as bad as today felt in the second half, and it was bad. Little nugget here, saw this thanks to little ESPN notification. It was the worst defensive performance in the Kyle and John era. Gave up 9.1 yards per play. The worst before that was 7.4.
Whew.
And we're missing Armstead, Kinlaw, but the Chiefs killed our edges. Like the way they coach defensive ends, get up the field as fast as you can. Well, they let them get up the field fast, and then they killed us with these jet sweeps, those like little puff passes to McCole Hardman, and ran outside, whether it was Hardman, Edwards-Helaire, the new running back, Pacheco. I think he was a 7th rounder. Looks like a 1st rounder to me. Runs on, I've seen him the last couple of weeks. Chiefs are on prime time all the time. But nothing cures, apparently, Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers, like seeing the LA Rams. And there's just something kind of like what I said with Seattle, pure, organic, do what we do. It feels like when they play the Rams, they go up to the line. The center says, we're hiking this on 1 and we're running left. Can you stop us? And for the most part, the Rams haven't. They did in the biggest game, which still blows. But, yeah, they haven't. And I have serious their offensive line is terrible, the Rams. And until they can fix that, I feel good. Today was our toughest game on the schedule. The rest, we get the Rams, we get the bye. The Charger game's on Sunday night if it doesn't get flexed. That looks.
Who'd have thought that? Yeah,
that doesn't look as tough. We get the Rams in Mexico after that on Monday night, which I'm thinking might be a Niner home game. Saints, Dolphins don't look as bad. Tampa now at Levi's doesn't look as bad. Like it, we're gonna get healthier. We'll get McCaffrey going. I'm thinking more positive. Last year I remember we were 3-4 and then got obliterated by the junior varsity Arizona Cardinals at Levi's, and we thought the world was about to cave in. And then we played the Rams and whooped them on Monday night. So
the ultimate get right team for Kyle.
I don't know why. The Rams are good. I talk about the Rams like there's some Super Bowl champs, and it's like, oh yeah, we're playing the Rams. Today the defense is a little concerning because first time really got worked hard, and
we were saying before the game today, we were saying this is kind of a free roll for the Niners given injuries, given it's Kansas City. If you win the game, you're like, oh, hell yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl. If you lose the game, you're like, let's get healthy. Let's get right against the Rams. Seems like the Niners are in the meat of their schedule right now. They really got to turn it around quick, given that they're 3-4 at this point. Vikings 5-1. I'm thrilled. We're coming off the bye. We got basically no injuries. I saw we have the healthiest team in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus, which means, it's a miracle. It's like, every time the Vikings have a good team, there's always a catastrophic injury that ruins it. Teddy Bridgewater, Adrian Peterson, Sam Bradford, all these different things that happen to completely derail a season. This year, we're getting all the breaks the other way, where we're playing against teams that they have had their QB injury. We have a pretty freaking easy schedule going forward. I was looking, I was like, I see 10-2. I see another 5-1 stretch after the bye, with the lone loss being at Buffalo. We're playing teams like Washington, Arizona, We play the Patriots, but it's at home on Thanksgiving. I feel pretty good about that game. I'm feeling positive right now, and I did not think coming into the season that the transition from Zimmer to O'Connell would have been this positive, where it's like all of a sudden the team is just winning the last minute, insane situations that we always found ways to lose under Zimmer the last 2 or 3 years. Everything's going the other way, and I think it's the culture change because the O'Connell is so positive, and Zimmer, I love the guy, but the guys did not want to play for him the last couple of years. All he would do is chew people out. What he did to Kellen Mond after that Packer game last year in the press conference, I think that was the nail in the coffin, and the players just had finally had enough, where he's basically just absolutely shitting on his backup quarterback in the post-game presser. Like, yeah, I watch the guy practice every week. He's not NFL caliber. It's like, well, then why the hell did you draft him? Getting Zimmer out of the building has really changed the culture. I do feel positive. But if we blow it to Arizona, you're going to hear something completely different next week.
Isn't it a weird thing to be comfortable about your team? It's uncomfortable.
It's extremely uncomfortable.
You know it's coming. You know it's coming.
Something. Yeah, we know the pain is coming. You and I are both A's and Sharks fans, and obviously the A's, they had a good 4 or 5 season run there, but it's going to be a tire fire for the foreseeable future. And then the Sharks, maybe the worst contract situation in all of sports. So, like, for you, the Niners, for me, the Vikings, this is our only hope right now. And I'm happy that we are where we are. Obviously, we're not as good a team as our record indicates, but this is all I have right now. So they better keep this train on the fucking tracks.
Sharks won today, so I've had a great day. I didn't really pay attention at all for football.
Oh, they're a wagon. 2-6-0, baby.
Tank stopped for a day today, for one day. But yeah, Vikings, like I said, I'd be looking to hear the chants at US Bank Stadium in January. I think
hasn't been a home game.
I mean, I watched Hard Knocks, big Lions guy after Hard Knocks. Well, that ended.
Yeah, that's
Chicago,
over.
Bad. I guess you never can count the Packers out, especially if you are a Vikings fan. You just always have that, like, until they're dead, they're not dead, but they look dead. But yeah, they look good. I mean, the fighting Kirks.
Can't believe it.
He deserves more credit. He deserves more credit than what he gets.
This whole offseason, all I did was float Kirk to San Francisco trades over and over, and then Kirk to Houston or all these different spots. And you were like, dude, you don't realize how good you have it. And while I do think he's a little bit of a goober and not much of a leader, the dude has really proven a lot of people wrong this season. He's always had the good stats, but this year we're finally having some fourth quarter comebacks, some moments where it like appears that his teammates are like starting to warm up to him. I see him wearing the like Flava Flav bedazzled chain on the plane after winning a game. I'm like, maybe this is that one year that I've been looking for.
Winning does that. He can do whatever he wants. He could you like that all up and down the building all week. He keeps putting out wins.
That's how we get the name of this podcast. Kirk Cousins, you like that, and Jimmy Garoppolo famously feels good, baby, when he was speaking to Aaron Andrews, and we all kind of thought the same thing at that moment. Let's go to the You Like That. That's my segment. We're going to go over the consensus formed between Joey and I when we were doing our guesses. We're going to look at 5 games, and we're going to say, hey, I was way off on this one. Joey was way off on this one. Let's take a look and just see. First one is going to be the Rams. We both thought that the Rams would be favored, and they're 1.5-point dogs. I'm thinking I'll probably bet the Rams this week. I know it's at air quotes at home, but I don't know. Obviously, they got a lot of problems, but we both thought they'd be favored, and they're underdogs. I think we probably should bet that before it moves the other way. People are just going to see Rams at home and think, oh, they should be -3. That's kind of what I thought. So that's one that I'm looking at. You thought Buffalo would be -7.5, and it's 10.5. So I'm thinking Green Bay is possibly like this is a kitchen sink game for them. I know we're spent this whole podcast burying the Packers, but I mean this is their season, right? They have to come out firing in this one.
They're going to a gunfight with a water gun.
Oof. I can only hope so. I feel like this isn't a good emotional hedge spot though, because obviously I'm going to be rooting huge for Buffalo.
I would say maybe they somehow. I mean, judging a little Packer Twitter today, follow a couple Packer people that I find somewhat interesting. They really want to run like Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon. Like they have a good running game, but they just refuse to run the ball. Like I mean, you go up to Buffalo and just run it 20, 25 times. I don't think you can. That stadium's going to be absolutely an electric factory.
Only time anyone's gone in there and done anything in the last year and a half was when it was a freaking windstorm and the Patriots only threw the ball 3 times and they got out of there with a win. I don't think there's any way that the Packers come out of that victorious, but I mean, 10.5 is probably decent given that this is going to be the kitchen sink game.
And what, Kansas City on a bye? I mean, Buffalo's trying to. I mean, they need the 1 seed. They're sick and people are sick and tired of going to Arrowhead at the end of January. So
yeah, they got to keep the pedal to the metal. So we'll take a look at that one. May go the other way actually, but right now I'm penciling myself in for Packers plus 12.5 or plus 10.5. I think Philly's cheap at -10 after watching the Steelers offense in the fourth quarter. Like I said, I think Pickett is actually better than I thought, but Philly off a bye against a team that just cannot score points. Like obviously, like it's different with the Buffalo game because Aaron Rodgers has won back-to-back MVPs. You expect something from that game. I don't think Pickett's going to be able to score enough points to keep this within the number. So I like Philly -10 there. And then another one we both kind of like is Baltimore on Thursday Night Football. I mean, Tampa, you would think before the season they would have been like maybe -5.5 or 6 in this game, and they're +3.5 now. So I guess a lot of the experts would say, oh, maybe you want to take Tampa now that they're such a big underdog, because before the season you would have thought they would have been way better. But I mean, I have not seen anything from Tampa in the last 3 weeks to indicate that they should ever be bet on this season. So I think Baltimore's a good bet there. You think that's a good spot to go?
Yeah, Ravens don't encourage me a lot, but more than Tampa right now. And Ravens, I think they'll be able to move the ball up and down. Tampa's defense right now. I mean, Carolina did today. Holy smokes. Yeah. I mean, it sure seems like last couple weeks people have been talking about just blitz, bring the house every play to Lamar. I don't know. Eventually you think they got to figure that out. I don't know. I think short week. I think Lamar might be able to take over his legs a little bit. I don't like anything about Tampa right now.
And then the final game that we were off quite a bit on was Indy and Washington. So I think we're going to look at Washington +5 there. I like that bet. I was surprised when they were +5. That's a good one. Final segment of the show. This is the Feels Great Baby segment. Joey gives his wildest take he feels best about at the moment. Obviously, we're texting each other all day, and I'm like, that's a pretty crazy take. You want to go with that one? What are we thinking? Mike McGlinchey is the worst offensive tackle in the history of the NFL. All these different ones we're working through. And then I was like, hey, did you just see that play on Red Zone? And you go, I don't like Red Zone. I was stunned. So this is your wildest take of the week?
Yeah, if I'm on an island, I'm on an island. But Red Zone, in my personal, humble, honest opinion, quite overrated. I'm not. I very much enjoy the bad football, and Red Zone, which I haven't watched. I'll admit I haven't watched a whole lot. You just get fed really good plays, really good. Woo! It's just I like the game experience. I like these commentators get paid a lot of money. I like to hear sometimes what they got to say. I like to drop back, rolls out, and quarterback hits the Gatorade bottle. I kind of like it's fun. I feel like I get more of the game experience. Red Zone, if you're super into fantasy football, I could see if your team wasn't playing. I mean, I guess I could see that, but man, it's not my thing.
My dad and I have this same argument all the time. He's like, you can't get any feel for the game. It's just constant
Exactly.
excitement. I'm like, oh yeah, constant excitement is just the worst. Getting the best play from every game and not being at the end of the day like, oh, I wonder what happened in the Detroit Dallas game. I wonder what happened in the Green Bay Washington game. You can be like, well, I watched the important parts of all of them. Yes, you do lose a little bit of, oh, I didn't get to see every play, so I didn't get to see all those run stuffs that that Dallas had today against a good Detroit rushing attack. But I feel like you can get most of that from the box score. I worship at the altar of red zone. I feel like this is one of your worst takes. I am off.
Who knows? Maybe in a couple weeks when the Niners are on their bye, I might give it a try. But I I don't know. I don't know. Scott Hansen? I
Highly
don't know.
caffeinated.
I don't know. I might be crazy, but sign me up for another Denver Bronco game. Let's ride.
Broncos country. Let's ride
Yeah, I
to a 5-12 record.
couldn't
Rough
happen to a better
times.
guy.
Good. Mr. Unlimited is about to be
I could
5
do
and
a
12.
I could do a whole podcast on him, but
Oh, we'll save that for next week after they lose. Who are they playing next week? Jacksonville and London. God, if they lose that one, I mean, they got to think about firing Hackett, but that's a discussion for next week. Before we get out of Dodge, anything we want to discuss outside of the NFL that happened this week? I'll lead us off here. I had a moment today in my rec league softball game I want to discuss. Scores 8-8 in the top of the seventh. We play 7 innings. We're the home team. I'm the pitcher. 2-2 count, bases loaded in a tie game. I throw a really high pitch because it's a power hitter on the other team to try to entice him to swing at it. He lets it go past. It lands. It's a ball. For whatever reason, the runner on third thought that was ball 4 and just starts breaking for the plate. The ball comes back to me like it normally does. I look over. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? I run over and tag him. Out. Unbelievable. They're looking around like, no, that was ball 4. That was ball 4. Big argument ensues. We move forward with the game. Our team, bases loaded in the bottom of the 7th, walk-off single up the middle for my buddy Oscar. Incredible game. So that was a highlight of the week for me outside of the football world. I know everyone just loves hearing about some random dude on the internet's rec league softball game, but I'll turn it over to you. Anything eventful happen for you this week?
first off, I got a question. Who how'd you get stuck playing softball on a Sunday in the fall?
Yeah, I didn't really think that through. We started playing in January of last year. I remember the first
That's a
game.
long league.
Yeah, well, this is season 3. Each season is like 3 months long. The only game I missed last year in the playoffs was the Kansas City versus Cincinnati AFC Championship game because of softball. And then every subsequent softball season, I'm playing during baseball and during hockey and during basketball, so it's not a big deal. These last few weeks where I'm playing softball on NFL Sundays, it's been different.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What I don't do much. I don't get out much. But Friday, I chose to do a whole lot of yard work. 2 hours yard work. Took the blower, blew all the leaves. I think I pissed off my neighbor because I had the blower probably about 4 or 5 feet from his door, and all of a sudden I hear super loud music, and hadn't heard that in a few months, really since we moved, and might have blew some leaves into his yard on accident, and there's a little hole in the fence.
Mm.
Not like hole, but like it's not like not like a brick fence, like we got in the back of our yard to the street. But yeah, I might have an angry neighbor. Lived here 4 or 5 months now. Haven't met him. Don't know his name. Don't know if he's single guy, married. He's the only person I've seen in that house, but might get a
Not off
letter.
on the right foot. Yeah, not
Might
off
get a
on the right
letter.
foot.
But yeah, just another day at work tomorrow. Super awesome week coming up. We are going to Hawaii in a couple weeks. Actually, finally got that box
Fantastic.
checked. Oahu, I think, is what we're doing.
Very nice.
She's never been to Oahu, but I went years ago with my family, and she got me to go there because she said it's the Vegas of Hawaii.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Downtown Waikiki is very much like, like you're walking the Vegas Strip. Incredible food. A lot of opportunities for you to go to places other than Jack in the Box.
I will
know
find a
that's
Jack in the
devastating,
Box
but
there.
he will find the one Jack in the Box on the island of Oahu. So that's it, man. Look, we did it. Our first ever episode of a podcast. We ran a little bit longer.
Is this what they call a pilot?
I guess it might be a pilot. My wife is an editor. She's big in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, that's right.
And maybe she would call this.
Shout her out. Shout her out.
I mean,
kind of a big deal.
She is a big deal, and I think she would call this a pilot. Maybe, I don't know. It's going to be released and listened to by, I would think, between 1 and 4 people, which is huge for us, huge for the brand.
Oh, it's going to be more than that. It's going to be more than that because I know I've told that people enough, and whether they want to listen to the takes, whether they want to listen to the insight, whether they want to listen to see if my wonderful tech skills could figure out how to use this, or maybe they just want to laugh at us. But they're going to be listening. You put it on TikTok, and I showed a couple people, and they were like, "You've already had like 250 people look at this." I'm like, I don't know 250 people.
That's the magic of social media, man. I'm glad we got this first one.
Put us in the algorithm.
Yeah, let's get us in the algorithm, man. Let's get some of that Alex Cooper money. Let's get it rolling. This was a great first episode. Oh, now that would have been the name for the podcast. Call me Daddy. Very nice. Awesome first episode, man. Good catching up with you yet again. We'll do it again next week. To everybody who listened, thank you so much. This has always been something that Joey and I have wanted to do. Oh, yeah, our fan, plural, I guess, maybe. Pretty much everyone who's going to be listening to us at this point is related to us, so thank you for listening. But awesome first pod, man. Good seeing you, and we'll do it again next week. You like that?
I did like it. It felt great, baby.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.